Welcome to the Quoin Mile. After last week's Lima round, Jared Mees emerges as point leader, followed closely by Sammy Halbert. A rough weekend sees Kenny Coolbeth drop into third ahead of Lima winner Brad Baker, with Brandon Robinson and Brian Smith putting 6 riders within 14 points heading into round 6.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Quoin, the Magic Mile. This is the pre-show. I'm Scotty Dibler alongside the 7-time Grand National Champion Chris Carr. And in between the sandwich, we got probably one of the winningest tuners in AMA Pro history, Kenny Tolbert. Kenny, thanks for stopping by this pre-show.
You bet. Glad to be here, actually.
Well, Kenny, now that you've worked with Jared Mees for a couple of years after working for, for a long time, how different is it for you?
Well, it's different in a lot of ways. This is G-rated, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
PG.
PG.
We're in a pre-race show. So.
It's good. It's kind of neat to be on the team. I got a great team, Craig Rogers and all the guys that are involved. And working with Jared it's been good. Kind of starting all over and learning his ways and things that he likes to have and things that I did for Chris and stuff for along the way. Some of it works, some of it don't. Most of it doesn't. Rider setup is it's a totally different deal, and everybody's so different. What works for one doesn't always work for the other guys. So it's kind of been pretty neat, and it's a new learning curve, and enjoying it and having lots of fun doing it.
So do you have a big notebook for all the stuff that you did with this man besides Chris Carr winning 7 championships, 94 race wins, and then you have a separate notebook for Jared Mees, who's making his own history, or do you just throw it all into one book?
I have a couple big books. Lots of notes. You can never keep enough notes. I'm not very good at it, but I keep a lot of them and stuff, and can't rely on your memory too much, and so it's best to keep that stuff and go back into comparison to what you did in the past over the years in these tracks. Been to a lot of them, a lot of times and stuff, and here we are again with him for the first time. And so some of the stuff may apply, it probably won't. It's just going to come down to today's race is who's going to be strong at the end and be smart about it.
Well, knowing that we've only had, it's only been 10 years since the race has been run here at Quoin, and you and I won that together. Is there anything about what you and I did in 2005 that you bring to Jared's table here in 2015? Or is that, just like you just explained, nothing at all?
There is. In the engine combinations, there is. With the power delivery is different today. The way these guys ride today and stuff, we're really spinning these things a lot of RPMs. And the way you did it back in the day, you went fast through the corner. We were able to loaf the engines around. And today, it seems like they may park them a little bit more in the corner and put more gear on them and rev the crap out of these things. And so we're spending a lot of time. The fuses are getting short on these dang things. And it makes a lot more work out of it. But so note-wise and things that we've done in the past, chassis setups and all that, they're still pretty close. They're still pretty close.
Well, to follow up on that, does it concern you with the amount of RPMs that you're turning out of these pushrod engines today? How nervous is Kenny Tolbert watching the bikes that he builds go around this racetrack?
I'm real nervous because I know these things are going to spit chicken bones sooner or later, and it's not going to be pretty, and I just don't want mine to be one of them. So we work our butts off on these things, and you have to take them apart, and take them apart every week now, and the fuse is really short, and finding lots of things wrong with them, and I don't want to be a victim of not taking it apart, so it makes it a lot more work in them and stuff. And when we ran restrictor plates and whatnot, to me it was a lot easier on them and stuff. You couldn't stretch it. You could stretch them out, but you weren't making no power. And today we're making pretty good power out of them, and these things were designed to turn 6,000, not 95, 9,600. So there's a difference.
You work on the bikes. This is your full-time job, and it's 7 days a week, all year long. You're always looking for more. And tell us about your project where you ended up switching the cylinder and turning that back cylinder around. And I've heard different rumors that you got a lot more horsepower. But why are you choosing to run the standard 750 instead of running that one today?
Well, we're not racing. We're going to run the backwards head today.
Oh, see, you're keeping something in your back pocket. So you're finding out here, right here on the pre-show, what's happening with Jared Meese and Kenny Tolbert. And tell us, how'd you think of that idea? Was it your idea, and how long have you been working on that?
Been working on it for a while. Most of the credit to that deal's got to go to my buddy at Home Field Darcy, because he's the craftsman, and he's the one that actually took and we were going to spin the heads around, put a front head on the back, and do all that. Bottom line is we welded the rear head completely shut and reversed the ports, and
Wow.
we're able to make a better port entry and stuff like that. And a lot of things changed, and it was pretty incredible for what it was. And I'll never do it again, I can tell you that. It's a lot of work, and the gains were pretty significant, and I was hoping we'd get more, but it is what it is. And so we raced it at Sacramento, and it's a little bit better than it was then. And, still, I don't think it's no Kawasaki beater, but it's still XR 750, so it'll be good.
Would you think, knowing the power characteristics of this new project of yours, that you have a better chance of maybe completing the draft pass at a place like DuQuoin, where start finish line is much further down than maybe some of the other racetracks?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That engine doesn't like to spin up as much as my other one does, and even still, it takes him the whole straightaway to get by that Kawasaki, and sometimes he can, and most of the time he can't. And I think today he might be able to, like you said, with the straightaway being at the end, gives him a better shot.
As the mechanic, do you talk to the rider very much and tell him that he needs to move his line around on the racetrack? We were talking about several different lines during qualifying practice, and we noticed that some riders made changes during each session each time they went out, or is that just a rider's particular preference of where he wants to ride?
Well, Jared's preference was the low line, but when Brad Baker went by him 30 miles an hour faster around the top, he realized he better move up. And then as soon as he gets back in, Sammy Sweet's all over him. Hey, you got to ride up top. That was the difference. And so Sammy's a big part of this deal too. And he coaches Jared right along and helps him out and stuff. So we got a lot of eyes on him. And
Sure.
And he realizes, and as the day's gone on, the best thing I think for him early on was Brad to do that to him, because he started picking his pace up once he started following suit. So that was helpful.
Well, we're going to have Brad Baker on here in a few minutes, so we're going to see if he regrets showing Jared a little bit of the way around. But what do you think your rider's chances are today, knowing what you know, what you've seen at the two other previous miles? You guys are sitting on the point lead. You're 14 ahead of Brian Smith right now, who's down in 6th. Is the plan to win, or is the plan to get as good as you can get today?
The plan's always to win, but you take what you get. If it's a bad day, you make the best of it and stuff. So we come to each race to win, and it's a mile track. Yeah, we're on a Harley and stuff. It's going to be a little bit tough. Our bikes run pretty good for what they are, and Brian's probably the best miler we have for sure. And you got tracks like this where a lot of times you got guys like Brad Baker, I see, that's just phenomenal. The kid is so good, and he makes up for lost power down the straightaways. And as you can see through the corners, he's so fast, and you're going to deal with those guys. And for Jared, I mean, he's the guy. He's got to look and see who's closest to him in points and do whatever, and don't do nothing foolish and try to just get out of here, and hopefully with a win.
All right, well, that is the words of the multi-time winning crew chief. He's won championships, and he's looking to win another championship this year. That was Kenny Tolbert. Thanks for stopping by the pre-race show, and now we're going to take a look at what happened last week at Lima.
Thanks, buddy.
Round 5 of AMA Pro Racing, the best flat track racers in the world hit the pea gravel for the first half mile of this season. In the GNC2 class, we saw Ohio's J.R. Addison take an early lead over our current points leader, Davis Fisher, who was unable to run him down.
I think I pulled away with it a little bit, and I was feeling really good, just trying to hit my marks and stay consistent. Winning Lima is great, and this is my third national win, so hopefully I can keep this going and move up in some points.
In the GNC1 class, Brad Baker had a phenomenal day from start to finish. Sammy Halbert, a usual contender at the Lima half mile, had a strong showing, finishing in second. In the main event, Henry Wiles took the lead early on, but a hungry Brad Baker stole the show and ran away with it. In the closing laps, fans saw a great battle between Briar Bauman and Sammy Halbert, who edged him out. Briar finished in third.
It's been an amazing day, what can I say? I mean, it's from the first practice to the end of the main event, we couldn't really put a wheel wrong. Factory XR 750 Harley Davidson was working amazing today. Vance and Hines has been working their tails off to make horsepower for us, and they've been doing a great job at it. Show suspension, the bikes were handling great. I'm by far on the best motorcycles I've ever been on. Cushion has always been really fun to me, and I just have a blast riding it. And usually when you're having fun, you're going fast.
Welcome back to the pre-race show here in DuQuoin, Illinois. That was a recap of what happened last weekend in Lima, and it was a pure dominance by the number 6, the factory Harley-Davidson rider, and he has joined us here in the booth. Brad Baker, welcome to DuQuoin. How you doing?
Well, thank you very much, Scotty. Glad to be back on the show, and just happy to be here at DuQuoin.
Dude, you dominated last weekend. You won everything you could. You won practice, you won the heat, you won the dash, and you won the main event. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I've always loved Lima half mile. I love pea gravels. I love tracks like today where it's a little bit more tore up and you can get a little bit more creative with your lines and pretty much essentially just ride as hard as you possibly can. And when you remember that the throttle's on the right and keep it on harder and longer than anybody else, usually you go faster. So I just enjoy being able to ride that hard, and I enjoy being in good fitness to be able to do it.
Well, last week, dominating performance. So far today, the track actually kind of similar to Lima in a lot of ways. Multiple lines. You can go just about anywhere. We saw you running up toward the top, kind of showing Jared a way to get through the corners. He was down there on the Pee-wee line there for a little while, and you went blowing by him on the outside, and he kind of inched his way up. How do you see the track changing? Do you think you're going to be able to get away with that all day, or are you leaning pretty hard on old Mike Hacker there in the pit area because you don't have a whole lot of experience here at all?
No, I mean, we don't have a whole lot. I rode here as an amateur through the Amateur Nationals, and the last time I rode here was '09 on a 450 when they allowed the pro single riders to ride during the Amateur Nationals. But track was totally different, and obviously on a totally different motorcycle with a lot stiffer competition. So can't really take anything that I learned back then, but whether the track stays the way it does right now or not, I mean, I got in behind Jared a little bit in the first qualifying session and got in behind some of that roost out there. And, I mean, it's basically like playing paintball with 200-mile-per-hour paintballs. It does not feel good at all. So that could play into a big factor of the way the racing goes down because you're not going to be able to ride that tight or the same line as somebody else. I think they're probably going to get it packed down more, but the more I looked up the racetrack, the more that I got the fresh, tacky dirt. And, I just kept on chasing it around, and especially that last one, I didn't want to show Jared what was going on or anybody what was, what I had in store. But, I also wasn't going to follow him and go slow at the same time. So,
well, we saw you guys kind of going back and forth, and you appeared to be dominant through the turns, and Jared appeared to have maybe a little bit of muscle down the straightaway. We saw him over there kind of looking over at you down at the straightaway. How do you take that? Does that kind of piss you off a little bit, or is that you just Jared having a little bit of fun?
He was definitely having a little bit of fun, and I think he was taunting me thinking that he had a faster motorcycle. But what he don't know is that it was actually a little bit of a mistake on my part. On these XR 750s, we got close ratio transmissions, so you can run third gear, and then between third and fourth gear is about a tooth difference. So in the first practice, I thought I had not shifted the thing all the way to fourth. I took a double take on the backstretch, and it didn't shift into fourth, so I kind of thought that, okay, I'm in fourth gear. And what happened was I felt like, man, usually it has a different feeling. I just felt like I didn't grab fourth. And then the next time out, I actually got fourth gear, and I was almost 1,000 RPM lower than what I was in the first practice. So then we knew, it's like, okay, you were in the wrong gear. We stacked a tooth on the thing. I went out in the last one, made sure I was in fourth, and I essentially was the same as what I went out in the first practice when things were dialed in, and I had my motor back down the straightaway, and we seen what happens. So he, Kenny Tolbert obviously builds an amazing motorcycle, just talking to him, but so does Vance Hines and Harley Davidson, and I think we're going to have our hands full to beat the Kawasaki and other motorcycles that are a little bit quicker down the straightaway, but we can show that we can go a little bit faster in the corners.
You got the Kawasaki qualified first with Brian Smith. You're sitting in the fourth spot. Are you worried about that? Because the Brian Smith machine's been fast at Springfield and at Sacramento. He's won the last 2 miles. What do you think it's going to take to beat him here today? Qualifying fourth, sitting pretty good, but you won't be in the same heat races as Brian.
I think we could have possibly qualified fastest if I wouldn't have made that mistake in the second one. I was riding the same line, still going faster, but I just couldn't get through the center and off the corner and down the straightaway nearly as fast. So I wasn't showing all my cards in the first practice or first qualifying session when the track was a little bit quicker. So I'm not necessarily concerned. I know we're going to have to deal with them. We're going to have to deal with them all day. I mean, the Crosby Radio team, they make a rocket ship of a Kawasaki, and the thing's always been tough on the miles, and Brian's a phenomenal mile rider, but I ain't worried about it. I just know that we're going to have to deal with him all day long, just as he's going to deal with me.
Well, qualifying doesn't pay points. It pretty much puts you in a position on the front row in your heat race. How important is it to you to be at the top of the timesheets in a session? I mean, Lima, you led all day long, no matter what. Every session, every time out, you were at the top. Is that something that you need mentally, or are you okay with not necessarily being the fastest guy every time out on the racetrack?
It's something that I definitely feel a lot better mentally going in or coming out of a qualifying session when I'm towards the front. It just gives you a little bit of confidence and motivation. Hey, we're in the right track. If you go out and you're back outside of the top 10 usually, or even sometimes if you're feeling great but then you don't have a good time, it still puts something in the back of your head. Man, what do I got to do different? But you just got to put it where you say, hey, it's race time now, and usually the guys that are good at racing, it doesn't really matter where they qualify, they'll usually end up towards the front either way. But it's definitely a good feeling when you qualify well.
So Lima, Ohio, half mile was last week, and it was a pea gravel track. Here we have four separate corners, but you're almost riding the exact same line. You're going in very high, you're going in and diamonding off the corner, squaring it off, and then shooting off the corner very low. Is that something that just suits your style, or is that how you like to ride, or is that just a coincidence that we're in two tracks that you're riding the same way?
It's definitely a way that I like to ride, and I've studied this race a lot, and the riders that have done well here. Chris, I haven't been able to see, obviously him being the last race, got rider of the win here. I wasn't able to see how he exactly rode the racetrack, but Kevin Atherton's one of my best friends, and he was exceptionally fast here, and I've talked to him a lot this last week and watched some of his own tapes. He sent me one he won here in 04 and pretty much spanked you guys. So
yeah,
I mean, he was on a roll and gave me some good insight on how to ride this racetrack if the line's available. So it's definitely something that I like to do, running in wide and getting the thing turned and making the straightaway as long as possible. But I think it's also a good way to ride this racetrack as well.
That's the man with some confidence right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Bullet, Brad Baker. Earlier today, Chris Carr went out there and checked out the dirt and the unique surface here and the unique racetrack here at the Magic Mile. Let's take a look.
What I think the Magic Mile means, I have no idea.
Magic Mile is fast, smooth, and make magic.
The Magic Mile, I don't know.
I don't know why they call it the Magic Mile. I have no idea.
Probably in the old days in the fairgrounds here, the parties afterwards, probably a lot of magic was made, I'm sure.
I sure hope it's magical for me.
I think it's just because we're in the middle of nowhere and all of a sudden just boom, there's the track. It was like magic.
I call it the Magic Mile because it'd just be freaking awesome.
Long before a baseball diamond appeared in rural Iowa, a southern Illinois bottling distributor, W.R. Hayes, had a dream of building a 1 mile racing oval. Magically appearing in the 1940s, this track has hosted many a horse racing and motorsports event on what is known today as the Quoin Magic Mile. With a unique shape, this oval has 4 distinct apexes and a finish line entering turn 1. Historically known to have multiple rider battles, winning that battle may require the leader on the last lap to pull a disappearing act or have a few tricks up his sleeve.
Welcome back to the pre-race show here at Quoin, Illinois. We have a great night coming up. We're at the Magic Mile. It's been 10 years since we've been here. Before we get into opening ceremonies coming up tonight at 6:30, we're still at the pre-race show, and the guy joining us here is the man that put it on him last weekend, number 24F, J.R. Addison. J.R., welcome to Quoin. How you feeling?
Pretty good. The track's definitely a little bit different than anything I've rode before, I think, but we qualified good. I'm definitely feeling good.
Tell us about the difference in the track. I mean, you just said it's different than anything else. Is it because of the configuration of the track or the dirt surface, or why is it so much different?
It's definitely just not what I expected. definitely running different lines of what I thought we would. The track's really rough, it seems like. Hasn't really grooved up a whole lot. It's kind of a cushion right now, and, there's a bunch of different lines being rode, but it's definitely going to make for some good racing.
Well, you go from a half mile on pea gravel on 450s last week. This week you come to Quoin. You're on a clay cushion, little rough, and you're on twins. How is it for you as a rider to adapt not only to the size of the racetrack, the difference in the surface, but the change of motorcycle as well?
This is I still haven't rode a twin a whole lot, but it's not. I don't think it feels that different really. The Kawasaki I don't think is a whole lot different from a 450. The throttle response and everything's definitely pretty close. The track's rough and kind of a cushion like Lima, so it's not changed that much from last weekend.
Do you think there's going to be drafting involved in the GNC2 class, or do you think it seemed like during practice everybody was spread out, but that's how they typically want you to practice? When we start everybody just 2 or 3 lines apart, do you think drafting will be a factor today?
Oh, drafting's definitely going to be a factor. With so many different lines to run, that everyone comes together in the straightaway. And I drafted a couple of times in qualifying, and you can go in above people, you can go in below them, and try to get a good run on them for a draft coming out of the corner.
As a rider that grew up on the cushion tracks of Ohio, you got to like that option. Here, typically a mile track, you get to the corner and you kind of single file. Here, that's not the case. You have options to make passes in the corner. Do you foresee yourself making passes through the turns more often, or do you just want to kind of set yourself up to play the drafting game?
It kind of depends, I guess, on what the track's looking like. It's definitely going to be a little bit of both. You can't quite get the draft on the straightaway, you could definitely make a pass in the corner.
Do you have anybody that you're sitting? Did you look at the heat race order, and is there somebody that you're going to work with, or do you not do that when you're out there in racing? Do you go out there and do your own thing?
I probably just go out there and do my own thing. That's normally what I do during qualifying, and then just kind of hope to get a good start in the heat race and see where I go from there.
Well, I got to ask you this question now. Your girlfriend, Stevie Smith, who's a racer in her own right, running amateur, younger sister to Brian Smith, have you opened up the pipeline of information via your girlfriend to kind of get some tips as to how to go around these mile tracks on a twin?
Yeah, Brian, he's definitely given me quite a few pointers. He's been a big help with me on this twin. Just my second year riding a twin. Like I said, I haven't rode it a whole lot, but he's definitely been a huge help.
So the Parkinson brothers, are they the main sponsor on the twin as well as the 450s?
No, they definitely the main sponsor on the 450s, but Brian Smith's dad, Barry Smith, he's been a tremendous help with this twin. He's put a ton of work into it, and I really appreciate it.
So is it a replica of one of Brian Smith's bikes, or is it just something that he's built on his own?
It's pretty close, I don't think it's not the exact same bike, so the motor's a little bit different, I do have a few of the same things that he has.
Well, how's JR going to do today?
I hope to win the thing.
Well, you hope to win. I mean, are you confident that you can win today?
Yeah, I could definitely see myself winning. I'm riding pretty good out there. I feel good. I feel confident.
You're moving up in the point standings. I believe you're up to 4th right now. If you win today, does that fuel the fire to race all the races? I know last week we talked to you before, and you weren't sure if you're going to run all the Grand Nationals. If you win today, you're going after it, right? You have to.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I actually think I'm like 7th right now. I think
You're moving up.
I think I'm like 20 points behind Fisher right now that's leading it. So if I do good today, I should definitely move up a couple more, and that'd be great.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for stopping in, and go get them today.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That is the winner from last week at Lima, Ohio, the 24F J.R. Addison, who's moved up, like he said, up to 7th in the point standings. But we caught up with a rider who had a great run last week, Johnny Lewis. He spent an awesome time this last weekend going organic. Let's check it out.
Yeah, 10 Training, it's a motorcycle riding camp. What I put together this week was a 3-day riding school for kids, and ended up being about 9 to 17 years old in kind of preparation for the 2015 Amateur Grand National Championships, which is held July 6th to the 10th in Quoin, Illinois. There's a big range there, so it's, if you were taking a 9-year-old in classroom and a 17 in classroom, it's totally different subjects. But motorcycle riding, it brings everybody together. It's a very social gathering, kind of unique type of training. The approach we're taking to this is to kind of prepare the kids for the amateur nationals and then down the road. You know, it's riding tips, which then progress, you know, on the track, but also the mental training that really allows the kids to focus on, you know, pre-thoughts before even getting on the track to once they're out on the track, putting it all together, because it's, you know, it's long 4 days. It's a lot of pressure, and it's kind of allowing these kids to learn how to take that pressure off. For me, doing 10 training and offering 3-day boot camps like this, not just the riding aspect, but providing the mental training, the physical, the, you know, the nutritional, is very important to me. I feel like it's something that has helped me in my riding career. I have great people that I learned from over the years in all different disciplines. And you know, for me to be able to pass the information along and see their success, you know, whether it is just making a main event or the success of them actually just grasping one thing of like maybe just using the rear brake or just getting throttle control a little better, just them seeing the excitement is what empowers me to just continue to do this, and that's why I love to do it, and I'm going to continue to do it, you know, I feel for many years, and hopefully help, you know, hundreds of kids and then even adults, you know, in the future, just kind of, you know, embracing themselves, riding motorcycles, having fun, and getting that pure enjoyment that I get out of riding motorcycles, and that's why I do 10 training.
Welcome back to the pre-race show here at DuQuoin at the Magic Mile, DuQuoin, Illinois. That was a great piece on Johnny Lewis, and JL10 has joined us up here in the booth. He's the factory Ducati rider riding the Ducati Scrambler. Johnny, welcome to DuQuoin and the pre-race show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That video was cool, man. Looks like you had a lot of fun down there. That was somewhere in southern Illinois as well, right?
Yeah, it was right by St. Louis, so it's right over the border. One of my buddies and a couple of guys just been building the facility up, making it, you know, it's actually a motocross track, and they just put a short track TT stuff in. So kind of worked out good, put the school together. It was a great group of kids from this area to do a school with.
Well, I got to ask you, where did you ever get the idea to have a dirt track school?
I had great people I rode with. I had Chris Carr used to come over to my house as a kid. You know, also, you know, my area had a lot of top level, you know, professional riders. They didn't really race all the time, but selective races, you know, when they showed up, it was like, man, these guys are good at their local track. So, you know, I just had a great group of people to ride with growing up and learned a lot.
Well, there's been all kinds of schools through the years. Obviously, I'm from the American Super Camp. I've been involved with that since its beginning. There's been the Ride Academy. There's Texas Tornado Boot Camp. There's Rich Oliver Mystery School. Now we have your school, 10 Training. What sets yours apart? What's so different about yours than some of the other ones?
Yeah, I think, you know, I try to put not just the riding aspect into, you know, racing and everything. I try to include the physical, you know, the nutrition. I think that's very important nowadays. You know, the mental training, everything, trying to put it all together. So, you know, not just learning when you're at the school, but, you know, you can then apply it, you know, for years and years to kind of progress. So
does that kind of isolate your customer base? Because you're basically teaching young racers, people who aspire to be pros. Do you have you been approached from people outside of racing to learn from you?
I have, and you know, also older road racers and stuff. They want the for dirt track feel, but then I get there and I serve them some, you know, kind of healthier food than, you know, some other, you know, times they've been at racetracks. You know, you don't have to serve like usually the best food at a racetrack and stuff. So kind of showing them different options and kind of keep them fueled and stuff. And, you know, I get these older guys there and they love it, and then they kind of asking questions and get a Facebook message and more. So it's, you know, thanks to Facebook and all this kind of stuff, you know, we're really able to grow it and get some good exposure, but also getting a different client base.
Let's talk about your season so far. What really impressed me so far was actually not even at a Grand National, but it was at the X Games. You put that Ducati up there to 4th, and you were charging hard, and that wasn't even a track that I thought that the Ducati it suited its style. I thought that would be a mile track bike, and you would go strong here in Sacramento. But you finished 4th at the X Games. But you run up towards the front at Lima, and then it seemed like you faded at the end. So tell us about your season and what happened last week at Lima.
Yeah, you know, the bike's been great. You know, the Lloyd brothers, the Ducati has been amazing. It's we didn't anticipate the bike being a half-mile bike or even a 3/8 bike. You know, that's kind of the schedule we selected to do, you know, the miles, and then it was Lima, and we plan on doing Charlotte and obviously X Games just because the exposure. But, you know, for us to be able to put the thing up there, I was actually shifting the bike.
Wow.
I think I was one of the only really consistently shifting, and it was actually GP shift, so I was coming the corner, up shifting, using the clutch, slipping and getting the thing in the corner. So it took a little bit extra work, but I think the crew was really excited to see how we were able to put the thing to fourth at a really small short track.
Well, with this new Ducati scrambler, they brought in Troy Bayliss for a couple races. He got hurt. We've been getting lots of questions. What's the status of Troy Bayliss, your teammate? Will we see him before the season ends?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's playing now with his foot injury and kind of get back on the bike. I think it's going to be Springfield again. Not 100% sure, but that's kind of what he's shooting for. And I think get him over here and do some one-on-one riding with him a little bit will help him kind of grasp it a little bit better than I think he was kind of shocked once he got over here, but in a good way.
I would assume that he, after getting here, he thought maybe I bit off more than I could chew. But working with you having a background in teaching, what's his? Where do you see him going with it personally? What are your expectations for a 3-time world champion road racer? How far do you think he can go in this?
I think he's going to come back with a whole different mindset than he came with, and I think yes, he did. I think he got in here. The guys were a lot faster than he thought. The bikes, the speeds, everything. As far as even at Sacramento when he got hurt, I was telling him, hey, you're entering too high. You're giving yourself no leverage to slip off the groove. And that track you can't slip off the groove. And I think that's kind of a road race mentality. On the brakes, at the highest part of the track, rotate the thing in. Where flat track, it's like you kind of can enter low, let the thing drift, and give you some. That drifting, I think, is on entry is what he's kind of missing, that feel of.
Well, that's
exit. I think he's fine with exiting on the gas on a road race bike, drifting the thing out, and he's fine with that. But it's the entry of letting that bike kind of two-wheel drift in, where road racing you don't really do that. You exit. These guys are drifting it on exit, but that's kind of the feeling. But overall, I think he's a huge ambassador sport. His kids over there in Australia, they're doing the Aussie Championships right now. So I think you're going to see a lot more of him being involved. In a bringing other people over, kind of getting Australia into the U.S. or AMA Pro Racing and stuff. So
he made a hell of an improvement from Springfield to Sacramento. So I was disappointed that he got hurt there. I know he was too, because I wanted to see how much he'd improve when he went on to the next round. So hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and see him back. Let's go back to you. You qualified 13th on the Ducati today here at the Magic Mile. What a unique racetrack we have. What's it going to take to win or to go to the front here?
Yeah, it's just learning the track, for me and the bike. We tried 2 different bikes. I was jumping back and forth. The last session, we made a bunch of changes and it was better, but the times weren't better. I was
the track
6th.
was slower.
I was 6th, but it wasn't, everybody kind of went slow or whatever. So I'm progressing every time I'm on the bike, but the times and everything, the track conditions change, so it kind of makes it tough. But, same with Lima, all day with a missed practice. It's a new track for me with the bike and the gearing and, Kenny's talking about I'm completely different than Henry and Jake, who rode the bike previously.
Right.
That did good there, but my setup was completely different, so we had to work at it. And, we got up to 4th, and it just got too dusty, and I wasn't risking it too much. I knew there was another weekend, and, I got a family and everything.
Well, that was my question. I was going to say, you did make it up to 4th, and you were coming to the front, and then, like you said, that the track was changing every lap. Chris Carr pointed that out several times, especially like during the red flag conditions. It definitely dried the track out, and it kept changing. I didn't know if you guys had missed the setup or you just were not in the comfort zone anymore.
Yeah, I lost that comfort zone. I talk about mental training, and it hit me where it's like, I couldn't see the fence, and I couldn't see where the flag was, and I'm like, I got another day, day to go racing.
Sure. So he's riding smart.
Well, how do you find the Quoin Mile? You've ridden at Sacramento, you've ridden at Indy, you've ridden it. This is your first trip here. You have experience on the other miles. How different is it for you and the Ducati here? What have you learned or picked up on just through the 3 rounds that you've been on the racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's more like the Mega Mile, where you kind of bury the thing in. You can go high, you could go low. It's getting through the center is the important spot. And, like a couple guys were talking about, it is a little rough getting in the center because the car grooves are kind of going one way. We're kind of going across it, trying to get the thing turned when we're trying to get across it, getting loose stuff. And I watched Smith one lap kind of run the thing wide on exit, and then he cut low. So it's changing up lines, and that's the same thing you did at the Mega Mile. So to me, I was kind of watching and thinking how the Mega Mile goes. And, I had pretty good success in heat races, Dash for Cash, but never had a bike that lasted to the main at the Mega Mile. So I think I'm going to take what I'm learning, on this bike, and I think we can get the thing dialed in by the, main event.
That is Johnny Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, piloting the factory Ducati out here, the Ducati Scrambler. I just about said Triumph, but he's on the Ducati today, and he is going very fast. Keep your eyes on the number 10. We appreciate him stopping by the pre-race show, and that is it for our pre-race show. And that is Johnny Lewis, Chris Carr. We'll be back in just a little while. Opening ceremony is coming up tonight at 6:30. Our first heat race will fire off the line at 7 o'clock Central Time right here in DuQuoin. That has been it for the pre-race show.
Jared Mees, Grand National number 1.
Brian Smith, national number 42.
Hey, I'm Sammy Halbert, number 7. Watch me live on fanschoice.tv. I'm Kenny Coolback. Watch me live on fanschoice.tv. Hey, I'm Brandon Robinson, national number 44. And watch me live on fanschoice.tv.
I'm Shayna Texter, number 52, and you're watching me live on Fans Choice TV.
I'm Henry Wiles, number 17. Watch me live on fanschoice.tv.
Rob Pearson, number 27, KTM, GE, Waters Auto Body.
I'm Jeffrey Carver, national number 23. Watch me on fanschoice.tv.
I'm Johnny Lewis. Watch me live on fanschoice.tv.